Hi everybody, and welcome to Party Political Puffin. This channel, and the wider work being carried out, is founded on a belief structure that has been informed by experience and first-hand knowledge, as well as a more academic approach. Some of the beliefs that the channel is trying to better explain and portray so as to educate and provide a basis for discussion are perhaps best encapsulated in policies and protections such as the following: housing for all, an end to food inequality, equitable wages starting with the enforcement of the increase of the minimum wage, equality for all regardless of someone's age, whether they've undergone reassignment for their gender, whether they're married or in a civil partnership, being pregnant or on maternity leave, any disability, their race, including colour, nationality, ethnic or national origins, their religion or beliefs, their sex or their sexual orientation. A Green New Deal to begin to roll back climate change and prevent any further decline in our environment. A social security programme that provides for citizens when they need it most and to support them in retirement. Guaranteed free further education, whether that be college, university, apprenticeships or vocational. Union, government and business cooperation with union support and open dialogue to support workers and their rights. A fair justice system regardless of race, sex, gender, money, power, or who they know. Public ownership of key utilities to provide reliable, efficient services for the public, not profits for shareholders. A fair and equitable taxation system. Investment in our public services. A responsible foreign policy with human rights, diplomacy, and economic fairness as the principles leading it. And to be a country that still welcomes those that are in the most dire of circumstances, protecting those that need it most, refugees, asylum seekers, and more, climate refugees that we will see. I don't think there's going to be much shock from viewers when I say that the politics of the channel is that of the left wing. However, this content is about Bernie Sanders, so I wanted to be absolutely crystal clear as to what lens this content's seen through. Thanks.
Donald Trump is the most corrupt president in American history. But the greed and corruption undermining our democracy is bigger than one man. And so is the solution. When we stand together, we will make billionaires pay their fair share, provide better wages for workers, and equal pay for women. We will expand Social Security and guarantee health care for all. I'm Bernie Sanders, and I approve this message because the future doesn't belong to Trump and his billionaire friends. It belongs to us.
The race to find who will become the Democratic Party candidate to take on the incumbent, Donald Trump, for President of the United States in 2020 is really hotting up.
Let's get ready to rumble!
Now I know that's a line that we've all heard a million times before in political races, but you know what? This time it actually might be correct. Bernie Sanders won the popular vote in Iowa, but narrowly ceded the Electoral College. Sanders then went on to win outright in New Hampshire and followed that up with a complete win in Nevada. The race then moved on to South Carolina, where Joe Biden, who you may recall was President Obama's vice president, was the clear frontrunner for that state. This status as frontrunner was clearly deserved, as Biden won handsomely. However, Sanders still picked up 13 of the 54 total delegates that were up for grabs, with 3 still to be allocated as of filming. For those outside the US, you may be thinking, well, that's great and all, but that's only a small handful of 50 US states, so how can the race be hotting up? Well, for a couple of reasons really. Every winner, except one, Bill Clinton, of a contested major party nomination since 1980 has won at least one of the first two states. And, without getting too far into the pledged delegates, superdelegates, Democratic Party internal politics, and what Super Tuesday means, the candidates are looking for a total number of 1,991 pledged delegates to become the nominee. With the polls showing the Sanders camp absolutely crushing California and Texas, who between them have a total of 643 pledged delegates, California 494, Texas 262 in total. More than a third of delegates will be allocated in Tuesday's nominating contests, compared with less than 5% awarded from the 4 states that voted in February. To give you a further idea of how significant these 2 states are, California returns the single largest number of delegates, while Texas is the 3rd largest. Not only that, but there are only 3 states that have 200 or more delegates in play. So you can see, if the polls are correct, Sanders and his team will be well on their way to picking up the nomination for the Democratic Party presidential nominee, should they perform, as expected, during Super Tuesday. There's a lot of media coverage of the internal politics that could come into play at the Democratic National Convention in July in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, where the nominees will actually be selected, potentially having an impact on who will ultimately be crowned the nominee. However, I'll cover that in another video rather than detract from the main purpose of this one. For the non-US contingent that watch this channel, who may not be completely down with how the US parties, and for that matter the US nation at a general election, carry out their elections, I intend to make videos explaining how this is done. As I've said in a previous video, whilst anyone watching this contest is clearly going to be interested in politics, not everyone has the time to be fully nerded up, and so I think it would be helpful for those that aren't completely clear on the subject. Right, back to the fray.
Huge tax breaks for the rich, while the middle class continues to struggle. That's what happens when billionaires are able to control the political system. Our campaign is funded by the working people of this country. Those are the people that I will represent. No more tax breaks for billionaires. We're going to fight for equal pay for equal work, healthcare for all of our people, and a livable wage. I'm Bernie Sanders, and I approve this message because we need an economy that works for all of us, not just wealthy campaign contributors.
I think it's a fair analysis that Bernie's politics and policies are similar to those of FDR, President Franklin D. Roosevelt, and the New Deal. FDR enacted this in 1933, just after he was elected. Sanders is also a proponent of a second Bill of Rights, or what the Sanders campaign calls a 21st century economic Bill of Rights. Roosevelt argued that whilst the Constitution and the original Bill of Rights guaranteed political rights, this did nothing for equality in the pursuit of happiness, as established in the original bill. Now, I talked about this in a previous video, and hopefully there should be a link to it so that you can go back and watch that video. Sanders has also often been linked to a Nordic model. Now, I say a Nordic model as opposed to the Nordic model. This is because there's much confusion about exactly what is meant from different people when they talk about the Nordic model. So I think this also needs a video of its own. Suffice it to say, Bernie is a self-declared democratic socialist. He's constantly attacked by the right and by some on the left as a socialist. It's unclear if this is just political opportunism to try to frighten the electorate about a non-existent red threat, or is genuine ignorance of what socialism is. For instance, when Donald Trump proudly talked about the support, given to US farmers due to his appalling, senseless and idiotic trade war with China. What he was actually talking about was subsidies to the tune of $28 billion. Let me just repeat that, $28 billion. So, the wider society coughs up the money to assist a sector of that society during hard times. This is a social act. When we want a word that forms a noun denoting an action or a result, we add the suffix ism to the end of it, or ism. This gives us, or at least it gives farmers in the US, socialism. It seems clear to me that what Bernie Sanders is talking about is a fairer system that caters for all, but not at the expense of anyone, let alone the 99% majority. The labels such as socialism no longer have the scare power they had during the Cold War. Younger people have no current case study to look at, coupled with the government's own propaganda of the left, and be convinced that the Reds are coming, let alone they're coming to do them any harm. What they have and do see with their own eyes every day is capitalism unchecked, allowing wages to be kept low, rent costs consuming an average of a third of their disposable income. But it's not uncommon to see 2/3 of someone's disposable income go on rent. Property purchasing completely out of their reach, starting out their adult lives shackled by student debt. Watching the rich kept rich through the unfairness of capitalism by manipulation of inheritance laws and lower inheritance taxes. They see how the right-wing governments can happily cut deals for low capital gains tax and corporation taxation, whilst there's no avenue for them to renegotiate their council tax bill. There's a Labour leadership contest going on right now in the UK. So, for a wonk like me, it's absolute heaven. More than that though, it can be seen that on both sides of the Atlantic, there are viable candidates that see past the end of their own pocketbook and understand that trying to deliver a more fair, just society, and for that matter the world, is not only potentially a vote winner, but also the right thing to do.
Bernie is a very rare egg in Washington. He's honest. Through his whole career, he has fought for our cases. Bernie fights for the average Joe. That's the thing I like about him the most. He's not there for Wall Street. He's not there for Hollywood. He's not there for big oil or big pharma or big anybody. It's big us. And I'm good with big us.
I'm Bernie Sanders, and I approve this message.
Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.